just like last week, huh?
Weekend at Bernie's.
Okay, we are live, and I guess can you hear the sound? Okay, so you can't hear. All right, hold on. Sorry.
Whatever. So the strong nuclear
You hear
force
the
is
sound now.
what actually sticks the nuclei together, all the proton and the neutrons
How's the
together.
sound now?
The weak nuclear force kind of exchanges charges between particles, and the particles change their nature because of that. Gravity, and then gravity is a standard gravity. So if I'm gonna stop sharing the screen and I'm gonna share my math spreadsheet. This window here. So if I did integrate, I'll show the equation first. So I did integrate time dilation with the magnetic acceleration, the electric acceleration, which is basically all the same curve, the same slope. And I get this acceleration equation here. I mean, it doesn't ring any bell, obviously, but I just want to show that I know what I'm doing. And that's the resulting magnetic force versus the subatomic altitude or the radius, and I get exactly the same slope. You have this would represent the strong nuclear force. Here the weak nuclear force, and here the Newtonian gravitational acceleration, or
it looks like a negative force, like
yeah,
when you get a negative spike.
yeah, it
Same
flips.
in
It flips. It flips at a certain radius. It just flips over. It's
negative energy.
yeah. You get an acceleration, and when you get to a certain radius, it just flips and it becomes repulsive. So it gets attracted, and a certain radius it repulses, just like the strong nuclear force I just showed.
Right.
So
yeah, it's interesting. The first thing that came to my mind when I seen that wave, it looked like you have a peak, and then all of a sudden it dives below, so it goes into the negative range,
exactly,
and then goes up to equilibrium. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so that's exactly like the picture I just showed you with the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force,
right?
The standard gravitational acceleration, or the electric or magnetic, and I get the force within the same range with the magnetic force. I get the resulting force that is the same range as the observed one. I forgot to. If you look up atomic forces, you're gonna see the forces around 1,000 Newton to 4,000 Newton. So it's within the same range, but the radius is not exactly the same. I'm kind of off by an order of magnitude of 8, because the radius of an atom is minus 15, 10 to the minus 15 meters. Me, I get 10 to the minus 23 meters. So I'm kind of off by 8, by an order of magnitude of 8. So I'm not too far away. So could it be the gravitomagnetic force, or the? I'm doing more calculations here to.
Wouldn't it be a sudden deceleration of inertia that creates the gravity effect?
So sorry, say that again.
It's the really fast deceleration of um, the inertia.
Yeah, that's what it is. It does decelerate, and then it's being repelled. There's a
Right.
repulsion at a very close range. So that's exactly what the strong nuclear force is. And so I'm trying to do a best fit here, a best fit algorithm to with the gravitomagnetic force, because remember the eta, the this variable here, it represents some sort of environment variable, and it plays a very important role in the resulting strength of the field.
So have you actually implemented an experiment to actually show this?
Well, it's an experiment. It's going to be hard because it's nuclear forces. Obviously I don't have a nuclear lab here.
Right.
But I did some I did ask ChatGPT to write me scripts, and here I'm testing scripts right now for best fit, which are the best eta x and qx, which is a charge, the gravitomagnetic charge, and the gravitomagnetic mass density here. So I'm trying best fits. I'm not done yet. Maybe I'll do that while you guys are talking tonight. But
Sure.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to show it. It's really,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
really happy, man. I mean, I found
have you sent it out for any kind of peer review or
well, I have my manuscript being rewritten by a professional Stuart Marangwe, actually. He's
right?
he's helping me out with the peer
But
review manuscript. But
what's his opinion when he first seen your
um,
mathematics?
well, he didn't comment on it yet. He just finished because it's gonna have to be published with multiple manuscripts, not just one.
Right.
Because people need to digest slowly that stuff.
The concept, yeah.
Yeah, you need to do one little modification and then write another manuscript for another little modification. Otherwise, if you throw everything in one big bag, then it's gonna
It'll be
be
confusing.
rejected. Yeah. So
You
I've
can
been sorry.
you converted two axes of two different measurement sets. One, it came out to a spike, like a position, place exactly, like when function is collapsed. But then the other one, when you converted it to a wave function, now it's it's a moving. It's not back. It's not a state of measurement. So you moved it from vector, but this one is actually moving this way. The other one was at just a moment.
You're breaking up a lot, Lulu. I don't know. Are you outside on Wi-Fi? You're kind of really choppy. Yeah, your sound is kind of really breaking up there.
Yeah, it's lagging.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it could be. Yeah, it's a little choppy. I don't know if you can go inside closer to the hub or whatever, because you're on Wi-Fi, right?
No, 5G.
Oh, you're on 5G. Oh, okay. All right. What else we got?
So yeah, but basically, man, it's like I'm able to explain the atomic forces with just time dilation and the standard Newtonian acceleration, and it's pretty awesome. I still need to do best fit algorithms, but man, I'm really happy about that. It's so awesome.
Yeah, that's good. And it seems like it's simple in a way. Even just looking at the waveform, it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
It just looks very realistic that you get a sudden from a spike, you're going into the negative inertia,
yeah,
and the nuclear force is now kind of like it's canceled itself out, right?
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is, and I'll show the original screen again, which was this one here. So that's the what was observed. So that Mike, I think Mike missed the first few minutes, but that's the nuclear forces where you have the strong nuclear force, which is effective at very close distance from the center of the atom.
Right.
Then you have the weak nuclear force that is the opposite of the strong nuclear force. And then you have gravity or electric or standard magnetic Newtonian forces. So
Yeah,
um,
just let everybody know here the live chat is open. So if you have any questions, comments for our panel tonight, you could do so in the live chat. So it is open. So you can fire away, and I'll post your comments on the screen. And yeah, so this week I've just been doing a ton of research on. I've been really going crazy with the battery cell. So I feel like I'm becoming a chemist, reading up on all these different metals and reactive metals, and just trying to find the right combinations. I got one experiment going right now. I'll have to let it set, and then I'll be doing some voltage testing. And I have somebody that's kind of investing into the idea of what I've been working on. So we have a whole whack of materials on order, and we're waiting for that to come in. We got carbon graphite, we have aluminum, we got a whole bunch of different reactive metals that we're going to test. Yeah, so I've been busy. I haven't really posted many videos this week because of that. I've just been inundated with that, plus work and all that kind of stuff. So,
But
Mike,
just
go ahead.
just so that you know, so sorry. I'm doing a best fit algorithm. I was hoping to be done by this show, but because if the ambient gravitomagnetic field is pretty stronger than we think, it's gonna change everything. It's another source of 0 point energy.
For sure, yeah, it's
that's,
there. It's there with it.
Yeah, so that's
Totally.
why I wanted
Always loves
to
gravity.
do a best fit algorithm and figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why I kind of always focused on the energy part, because I know gravity and the energy part are together, the one and the same. It's just a matter of how you use that energy and how you manipulate that energy that will give you anti-gravity. Like going back to the 80s with Floyd Sweet, when he put a serious load on his device, he was getting 90% mass reduction in the device. Actually, he had it levitate a few times, but it went into a super cooling state. It started to frost. And a couple of times he actually, the large magnets that he had on the box actually cracked. They actually broke. And, the experiment failed after that because of the magnets failing. So, yeah, energy, gravity, all that kind of stuff, I think they're all interconnected, intertwined at the molecular level. And yeah, that's kind of my view on it.
Yeah, but if we can harness that 0 point energy, then I think that'll fit with your agenda.
For sure, yeah. You get two for the price of one.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. So,
Yeah.
what have you been up to this week, Mike?
Hey guys, not much. Just doing a little work on the house.
Yeah. Have you done any more work on that Newman motor you made, or?
I'm still winding the stator coil for it, and I haven't had much time, but I'm doing it by hand. So
Yeah, takes forever to do it by hand.
got
How many
epoxy each layer.
How many pounds of copper do you have on it now?
The stator pickup coil, I'm just gonna. It's not gonna be sufficient to pick up the magnet passing it, but it'll be enough to run an experiment with it.
Yeah.
To get some kind of voltage out of it.
Yeah. Well, more the merrier.
I think it's like 2 pound, 2 pounds. It's 2 pounds.
2 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to get to 20 pounds, and then you'll really see some interesting stuff. No, I'm serious.
I'll never finish winding that.
Yeah. Well, Newman in his motor, he says you need minimum to get the real results he was getting. You need 270 pounds of copper. Then you start getting the real over unity effects. You'll see it in the smaller scale, but if you really want to do something with it, yeah, you need about 270 pounds of copper.
Yeah, he was using 270 pounds of a very fine wire. That's really hard.
Yeah, he was using a Litz wire with the smaller machines, but when he got up to the big Eureka, that was 7,000 pounds. So you can
the same Litz wire.
No, but he was using a heavier gauge for that. When Litz wire, 7,000 pounds of Litz wire. You'd be here for next 30 years winding that.
Take 3 lifetimes to do that.
Yeah, pretty much. No, you definitely have to be using a heavier gauge for sure. BurnEye, you had some stuff you wanted to throw at us tonight.
Yeah, well, I actually got some of my copper back to start doing stripping the plastic off, and then start doing the windings, right? And I've got 16 gauge and 14 gauge that I use for the Keshi coils, the Magrav
so
units.
You're going pretty heavy gauge.
Yeah.
So you're going pretty heavy gauge on it.
Yeah,
I have one of those coils. I bought them from somebody in Slavic country, and it took forever to deliver, but it works.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, That's what 18 gauge or 16.
16. And then
That's
you can
16.
see it's blackened from the nano coating on it. I did the caustic method on this one.
Okay.
But
Similar to like an anodizing type thing, right?
Yeah, it breaks down the outer shell of it, and then according to Keshi, then it's able to interact with the plasmatic field easier on the nanoscale.
Does the color of the metal actually mean anything as far as what it's capable of doing?
Well, yeah,
Like, do you?
the black coating on it compared to like your regular copper, the black
Right.
outer shell is this nano layer that you've broken down the covalent bonds of the regular copper into this shell or coating
Right.
that I guess is able to interact with the plasma field because it's, and then when you coat the monoatomics onto it, since it's on a one on like a single atom bond on the black outer shells, that then supposedly the monoatomic is able to then like bond with it, and then once you get your EM field generated through it by putting the electricity in, it creates an actual plasma field apparently.
I don't think I've ever asked you this question before. Have you ever tried? I know you work with lower voltages. Have you ever tried using, like a disruptive discharge to actually create a reaction, like a
Couple
spark gap, and then get it up into the kilovolt range or a couple hundred volts?
Nothing like that. Just a couple times I like tried a taser charge going into it, which was kind of interesting, but nothing.
What happened there? Because tasers can hit 50,000 volts. So
Yeah, I think it was even higher than that, but
yeah, it could be. Yep.
shorted out the
That would be.
taser, so that was kind of a
Yeah.
bummer. But it's a bunch of gas came out off of the reaction side, which was
I'm sure it did.
cool.
That's why I asked. Yeah, there's one guy I know. He's working on microbursting, using basically a high voltage. You can buy them on Amazon, right? And he's microbursting the actual electrolysis. So it's very little
Nice.
current, but high voltage. So he's got the circuit. I got to find it. I got it in my one of my folders on my phone. If I find it, I'll send it to you. And it's called microbursting. And apparently they've been working on this in China. And the output of the electrolysis went up by like 200 times the
Really?
production.
I like the sounds of that.
It's called microbursting.
I think I've
Yeah, it's
seen
called microbursting.
Moray B. King cover it briefly in one of his
Yeah,
presentations.
yeah. I think he's probably worked on it. I think another guy that's worked on it too, for sure, is Walt Jenkins. Walt Jenkins, he has the water fuel car as well, and he's suffered quite a bit of suppression on his invention. He's been a target for a while because
does he have
came up
patents
with
you
the
can
generator.
pull up?
And yeah, he does. Yep. He has it's actually been registered. He was granted the patent, and he's since he got that patent, it was all in the timing. They said they missed him by like 3 days or something, that they were gonna basically throw the wrench in his wheel, and he managed to actually get the patent on it. So he has the patent. It's Walt Jenkins water fuel engine. You can look it up. The patent's in Google Patents. I'm pretty sure somebody has the time they can look it up. I actually have a copy of it. I printed it off and I put it in my scrapbook of inventions. So
nice.
I was actually thinking of maybe making that device at some point, because it's he's using high voltage in his. I think kind of a spin-off of what Stanley Myers was doing, but with just way more modern
Welcome, Gerald.
components. All right. Look who joined us. How's it going, Gerald?
Oh, gee.
I can't hear you, Gerald.
Walter Jenkins, did you say was the name?
Yep. Actually, he goes by Walt, W-A-L-T, Jenkins.
How about now?
Now we got you
there
loud
you
and
are.
clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Good day. Good day.
How is everybody?
Good,
good.
brother. Good.
How's it going?
I missed last Friday because last Friday was my birthday.
Well,
Oh, happy birthday.
belated
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you.
Happy birthday.
I'm young. I'm 5 years old.
Excellent.
I'll drink in your honor.
I
I'll drink
started
in your
counting
honor.
backwards at like. There you go. Thank you. Hey, I started counting back because if you look at the numbers, I'm 50, right? If you were
Yeah.
reverse it, I'm 5.
Hey, don't feel bad. I'm older than you.
There you go.
You just turned 50,
You
Joe?
know what? I may be 50 years old, but I can still outbench my son. I can still outrun him. I'm still in great shape. So I'm happy.
There you go.
out of boy.
Thoroughbred.
So you know what? I'm sorry I missed last Friday. For you, Mike, and you, Bernie. I was bitter that I missed Ashton. There was a few things I wanted to
Yeah,
discuss.
you seen that, eh? Yeah, that was a cool. I enjoyed that little podcast. Yeah, he's a busy man. He's a busy man.
Because I'm gonna show some cool stuff soon. I did an experiment. Did I tell you guys about the my finger almost getting burned from the aluminum?
No.
I think so. I think I recall something like that.
I think I missed that.
Yeah, I did an experiment, and it. I think I told you about it, where I drained all my meters. Did I not tell you guys about that?
No, I don't recall
Okay,
that.
so this was about. I mentioned it to Jeremiah recently, so maybe that's where I'm getting it mixed up. So what I had done is I took one of my vortex coils, and I had put it on an aluminum case, where there's 2 walls to the case, and then it's open on both sides.
Yeah.
I grounded out the secondary outside of the room. The primary was used with 20,000 volts, high voltage piezoelectric barbecue starter.
Yeah.
And turned on the barbecue starter. On the secondary, it goes to the outside ground, and one wire's open to the air. Now, grounded to the aluminum plate, and then it goes from the aluminum plate back to the barbecue starter. So I hit that sucker, and the battery was brand new. And the batteries in my meters are brand new because I just changed them like 3 days prior.
Okay.
And as I'm doing the experiment, I have my radio on in the background about 10 feet away. It's on FM radio. And I'm hearing the pulse in the FM radio, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it must be proximity. And all of a sudden the radio starts to get really low. Like I'm losing the station, as if somebody's turning it down, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
You create an EMP bubble.
Well, see, now here's the other thing. So all of a sudden, as that radio was starting to get lower and lower, and I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
My meters started beeping and shutting off. And I'm like, what the? So
yeah, EMP maybe.
Yeah, well, no, it couldn't be an EMP because otherwise it would have blew the circuits in the systems that we're running.
So it stole the energy from your batteries. It sucked in the power from your
Exactly is what it did. Because when I shut the experiment off and I went to move the coil, I grabbed the aluminum plate, and it was so cold it felt like it burned my finger. And that shouldn't have happened.
super
It's
cold.
like, yeah, it was like 18 degrees outside. So it shouldn't have been that cold.
So it's essentially
Yeah.
superconducting.
So I believe that I was pulling energy out of the environment.
Yeah, you're.
Sounds like
Yeah,
it.
you got a superconductive state, and so you. Yeah, and it
barbecue
went
starts,
sub-zero really fast. So if you kept doing that, there's a good chance that coil or assembly you had could have started to lose its mass.
Probably. I don't know. It was starting to freak me out. All my meters went dead. The battery on the barbecue starter went dead. My radio, like I said, almost went to nil.
Batteries go
So
bad.
once I shut off the extent, I tested the meters. All the batteries were dead. They wouldn't even turn on.
That's the high voltage
the coil.
The
But
reverse
wait
pulse.
now, wait. You would think it would have blown the meters, right? Nope. Because 4 hours later, when I went back to turn the meters on, all the batteries were back to normal.
Recovered.
So I haven't figured out what exactly that means. I've done the experiment twice now. Both times, same as exact event.
What happens to the coil? It cools down or gets hot?
It cools down.
It
I've
cools
got
down.
a couple
You don't have a thermal.
comments,
You don't have a
questions.
thermometer.
Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. There's just
Yeah.
a couple question comments
Yeah,
in the
go ahead.
live chat. Ben Factor asking, were you using a single directional wind or the interference pattern?
Single directional wind or interference. No, these ones are based on sacred geometry. So is it a single directional wind? No, it's bifilar. It's like dual. It's one way, one the other, but it's based on geometry of like the atom. I don't know how to explain that. Think of it as a mandala with a mirrored image mandala in the same.
The two wires are twisted
exact
around each
coil.
other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're
Double
connected in series.
bifilar in
Going
a
round once.
It's not
sacred
something that you can
geometric-
look at and figure out,
not a star pattern,
but
but
it's
more,
you need-
definitely sacred geometry.
Gerald, allow me to describe it.
more of a vortex
You
space.
need,
A
you need to
bifilar is
get.
twisted.
Yeah, you need to get a thermometer and
Yes.
do a temperature reading on that coil.
You know what?
it's
That's
going-
the next. I'm gonna redo the experiment again, and I have an infrared camera. And
Yeah,
I'll show you
test it.
guys how cold it's crazy.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I'll even do that one live.
I was gonna say, can you please do
I
that?
can't
Gerald,
do it
that's
you're
right
very
now.
important.
I think you have to.
Yeah, I can't do it right now. Today was a shitty day. I was on the phone all day with customs, and I'm waiting for my freaking order, and FedEx has been just screwing me over. Now I got to pay an extra $1,500 to get all my solar panels. 720 watts a piece.
It's interesting though how they, energy is going one way in one wrap, and then back the other way. On the bifilar.
Yep. It's like that. It's one way, then the other, then back the other way, then back the other, then back. But it's based on sacred geometry in the
More than
sense
once.
where
Okay.
you literally are taking a mandala and you're interweaving it in a very specific pattern. And at the end,
It's like wrapping electrons around electrons.
Sorry?
It's like wrapping electrons around electrons.
Exactly. But by
In
doing
two
so, you
directions.
squeeze it and turn it into a pinch. And when you pinch
you-
that sucker, you're able to do all kinds of stuff with it.
See, with the bifilar and the Bedini setup, it was going one way. Just one of the windings was just a trigger winding for the hitting the gate of the base of the transistor. Sorry.
Yeah, but Bedini, he worked with solenoid coils. This is not a solenoid coil. In fact,
it's
the one that I
core,
use
there's
is
no
Right.
core.
You don't need
No,
you
there's
don't
no
need a
cores
core to
in
do
your
what
system.
Gerald's doing.
No, but
You don't.
Bedini's cores were.
In fact, a core would probably absorb
But I'll
all
tell
of
you,
the
if you add a
radiation.
core, if you add a core, there's certain things you can do with these coils. One of them is I can extend just the North Pole, or I could extend just the South Pole, or I could split them because of the way that the system works. So I don't know if you'd consider that a monopole or not, but if I was to put a ferrite rod on the north side of, so the bottom side of one of the coils, which would be like the north side if I chose it, or I could flip
Yeah.
the polarity and turn it south. Doesn't really matter.
Well, it's not exactly a monopole. It's just a very strong north to an extra weak south because you're only giving the north a core. It's close.
Yeah, no,
but
I
not-
understand
not-
exactly
not a
what
mo-
you're saying.
no.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but they're both.
By the way, if you
exactly
want to know how to
valid.
make a monopole, I know how to do that. You can do that with a liquid metal solder. You wind two coils in series, and one coil's flipped around, and you melt the solder on top of the two coils, and you drop the two drops to two sides to the two center of the two coils, and one side will be north and the other will be south of the liquid solder metal. It'll be a monopole, but a very weak one. It's just something I saw years ago. You got
So
two coils in
isn't the mon-
series, two donuts in series. They're sitting horizontal, so the holes are facing the sky, and you drop
Yeah,
liquid solder down the two holes, and that splits the polarity. You have to heat.
yeah, you're talking about charge separation.
Right,
That's
you don't-
exactly what a
you don't-
monopole is.
and you
I get
don't
charge separation every day, Mike.
and you don't
Every-
have to energize the two series coils. They just need to be connected in series. One needs to be flipped around. In other words, winding has to go the opposite winding direction as the other one. And then the liquid solder falls down the two holes, and the two liquid beads of liquid solder falling down the two donuts of the two coils. One side is south, the other is north. It just gets polarized that way. That's the only real way to make a true monopole that I know of.
disagree, but I definitely want to try that
I mean,
experiment.
that I know of. As I
No,
just
I hear you there.
did. Yeah, I
Too
don't
bad
know
you
any other
didn't.
way.
Too bad you didn't have liquid gallium. You
But
could try.
you can simulate a monopole like you're doing with the core on one side. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah,
which- go ahead, Mike.
you know what? I was thinking, with the liquid gallium, when you heat up liquid gallium, it goes to a liquid form, right? That would be a good gauge to use if you put like in a cup the gallium, put it in the middle of your coil, and when it starts to freeze, that gallium will go from a liquid state, it'll go into a solid state as the temperature drops. That would be a good gauge to let you know that you're getting super cooling. You're getting a real thermal effect.
I get what you mean by that. That's something I could definitely try.
Yeah, I have a tube of gallium. I haven't even used it for anything. I haven't found any ideas what I could do with it. But like if you warm it up in your hands, it'll turn to a liquid. But the slightest coolness that hits it, it will start solidifying.
The military uses gallium to make weapons. Gallium will go straight through aluminum, I think, or
So will
something.
plasma. Plasma goes through everything.
Yeah.
Like when I'm pulsing the coil at a low rate, say 7.83 hertz, there isn't anything that I don't know how to explain that. There's nothing that can block it. I've used iron, I've used aluminum, I've used stainless steel, I've used nickel, I've used copper, I've used paper, plastic, anything I could think of, even carbon fiber. Nope, doesn't matter. Signal still gets through.
So 7.83 hertz.
Yeah, when you're pulsing it with this coil.
Really? It's that low?
Yep.
I thought it'd be a lot higher.
Oh, I can go higher.
What's the diameter of the coil?
The one that I was using that made the aluminum
Yeah.
cold? 1
Yeah.
inch.
1 inch. That's it.
That's it.
That's small, and you were getting that amount of effects from it.
Here's what I haven't brought out. Remember I said I got a presentation? This is part of my theory. My theory is that when it comes to energy and free energy and energy without moving parts, solid state, I believe there's a formula to it, a very specific form that once you tap that form, it doesn't matter what size it is, small, big, large, it really doesn't matter. Just the diameter of the copper itself when you're building it, in order to facilitate that plasma that surrounds the coil itself like a skin effect. And then by doing so, it builds a field.
Yeah, it builds a field around it.
Yeah, and I believe that directly, all the energy that we've all been looking for and trying to tap directly involves geometrical forms. And it's, like I said, the way that the energy flows. It's all about the flow. And if you can make that flow, give it the path of least resistance that it likes, well, then you're going to be able to build.
And, well, Tesla always said energy, frequency, and vibration. Right? So
they're all one. If
superconductors,
right?
like
yeah. I'm just gonna speed up for smoke. I'll be right back.
It's crazy how a superconductor can allow flow without any resistive load.
Yep, absolutely. And if
at the same time, it's like, how do you understand that? You know it's true because it doesn't have any resistance, and it's a metallic, just like any other material that can flow, electric can flow on. You're like, how do you understand that? You know, like the whole time wait, hold on, let me finish. The whole time we're trying to, we have to create a resistive load to get any energy to flow in that direction. And there's only one way to understand it, is that energy wants to handle the load. That's why it's called energy. It's there to deal with your heavy lifting. It's actually, that's its purpose. It's the only way to understand why you have to create a load to get energy to flow through a copper wire.
Okay, so now think about it like this. In a copper wire, why does it heat up? Because when you're sending energy through it, current wants to go the
part of the energy in a field outside of it
is too high. You could lower the voltage and there will be no heat.
Just listen, Mike, listen. I understand that. I totally get the whole high voltage.
You can only have 6.
The current's still flowing. It's just flowing at a lower pressure, but the same rate.
You're gonna have to bear with us.
I'm trying to give you a hint
pressure.
Then
to room temperature superconductivity. Okay.
Excuse my voice.
In a copper wire, when power goes through it one way,
in your YouTube comment,
there is a back EMF that goes the opposite direction. And when you put too much current through a wire or around a wire, it heats up. Why? Because that back EMF, all that current that's built up collects within the wire.
That's one way of looking at it.
Okay, now if you give that back EMF a path of least resistance to go, it allows that first power that you sent through to go through at lightning speed. Why? Because there's no current that's collecting around that wire.
So can you rewind that just about 2 sentences? I lost you there. Say that again.
So what I was saying is as the power goes through the line, it creates current, heats up that wire. If you give that current a path of least resistance, because remember,
as opposed to the wire it's in already.
Yes. Okay. So think about this, right? So as you're pushing power through the wire one way, and the current is collecting the other way,
and you put a capacitor or something right there at that point, whatever, something like that.
Yeah, my thought process is more like if you wrap a coil in one direction, you absolutely have to wrap that coil in the exact same way in the opposite direction in order to collect that back EMF so that you can create a room temperature superconductor.
Gotcha.
That's my thought process.
And you create resonance at the same time because you're kind of canceling
your
own signal.
And you can add to the resonance by using capacitor, like you said earlier.
But you're also canceling your own signal by doing that kind of move.
No, actually, what you're doing is magnifying your signal to a point where you can't even stop the darn thing. I've tried.
So, and you do that by keeping asymmetry. Basically, your bipolar, the 2 windings are not the same resistance.
Boom.
Right.
Asymmetry.
And that's the only way. So, if they were the same resistance, the same length, and same turns and identical, you would cancel your signal, even if you went the opposite wind. I think.
Yes.
If I'm not correct.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I totally do. And when you get my
you have to have
video,
a separation of load demand. It has to have like, okay, yeah, you created a load here, and your current's going to go into that bucket or whatever. But and once that load is satisfied, and there's no other load after that, it ends. The cycle ends. So you gotta have it continue to a secondary load.
All right, I'm going to give away my secret. I probably shouldn't do this.
It's kind of crazy, but it
Probably
seems like
shouldn't say it.
the resistive load is a key.
Are you ready?
Here.
Are you ready? It's like this.
Like secret
built-
sauce.
Okay, so here's the secret sauce.
So,
When it comes to building coils, it's all about a series of line inductors, or what you could consider bar magnets in opposite directions, in order for it to balance out at every point and magnify the system as a whole.
right, and they're what, 90-degree out of phase, so they don't
180.
bounce off each other.
180.
Right, so that way they're not canceling or bouncing off, or like they're just wrapping around
It's
each other.
constructive interference. Think about it that way. Constructive.
There's no interference. They're wrapping around each other in a way where there is no interference.
Yeah, well, that's just my point, though. Every point that supposedly would normally interfere in a regular system actually magnifies each separate point. It's like a construction build, right?
Right, because you have energy
Basically an energy
from
magnifier.
left to right in a clockwise direction, and then right to left in a counterclockwise direction.
Yeah, I usually wind in a counterclockwise.
You got it. Or something of that nature, you know.
It's got to be in both, clockwise and counterclockwise. Otherwise,
Yeah,
all you're
especially if
getting
you're
and the
doing
two
a,
windings cannot be symmetrical. They
bifilar
can't
style,
be the
right,
same.
Gerald?
Yeah. Bifilar in opposite directions. Think of it as a star pattern that's interwoven. Right? And you look at the numbers, and say the numbers are 12 in a circle. Well, as you go one way with a 12, and then to your 2, and then to your 4, and then to your 6, you go the opposite way from your 6 to your 4 to your 2. And you're going to get a cancellation and a magnifying overall for your system.
How about
There you go. I just gave you secret sauce. Anyone that knows how to build coils?
Yes, you did.
Well, it's all over out there. It's just hard to interpret. Like Patrick Kelly did a great job when he described the Thane Hines, that transformer. You know, the way that transformer is he's got a thicker core.
Oh yeah, the Hines. Okay, so I got to tell you something.
It's the same concept. It's the same concept as the asymmetrical Wi-Fi.
I doubled my output. Hines was a genius. Okay, so what I did is I took 3 farad
asymmetrical cores.
I took 3 farad cores. I wrapped 3 pickup coils on it, and I took that 1-inch vortex coil, put it in the center of those 3 coils. They're all touching, and I've got the voltage out on the left coil and the right coil, and the center is just a drive coil. Thane was a genius. He figured it out.
Well,
the vortex.
The energy density is going to double, but the force is going to be canceled. But I get what you're saying. The energy density will be will double.
Yeah. Current, I'm not sure yet. It's an interesting. I'm still playing with it.
It will. There'll be like a harmonic resonance that creates the amplification of the voltage. You know.
Well, harmonic resonance definitely comes into play. You can't have an amplification in your system without it.
So we have
question for you.
in the back.
Gerald,
room.
question for you.
Go ahead.
So, or do your question first.
Sorry. Yeah, I seen that. I'm limited to 6.
Yeah. So, and also there's Ben wants to join from my in my cat too that has a coil demo to show and stuff. So in a little bit, when someone leaves, then we'll be able to bring someone else up. And at some point, I
Yeah,
can also
I'm
remove
gonna-
myself to let Ben up to show the demo if need be. But yeah, sorry, continue. And sad.
Yeah, if you
I
want,
can host more than 6 on my account.
Gerald,
Yeah.
Gerald, quick question for you. Would it be fair to say, because you got the two different current flows going in two different directions, wouldn't that cancel out the magnetic field that you're generated?
You would think, but they're not. It's okay. So if you were to build a solenoid coil that was bifilar, it would cancel out the signal. But I'm not doing that. Think of two bar magnets that are crossed in the center of both those magnets. So there's a null zone.
Okay.
And what I'm doing is I've
Right.
got the null zone magnified in the center of my coil. By doing so,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, so you get what I'm saying
Gotcha.
now?
So yeah,
Yeah.
the resulting vector is null, but the energy density increases. You know.
Absolutely. You're getting it.
Gerald, okay,
Yep.
try this idea. I got this from Ken Wheeler. If you take two magnets, whether they're bar magnets or circular, it doesn't really matter. When they're in attraction mode, when he put it on his ferro cell to see the field, a 0 point forms in between the two magnets in attraction. That could be the null that you're looking for. So if you
I
get
get what
two
you're
really
saying.
powerful magnets,
Yep.
set up a rig so they would be maybe about an inch apart. And what will happen is a null or a dead spot forms in between the two magnets.
Yep.
That
Okay,
might
so let me
be
the null zone that you're
that might be
speaking of. Okay,
yeah.
so I could take a neodymium magnet, put it in the center of my 12-inch coil, and go on 7.83 hertz. It loves to jump. It loves to spin
Right.
and do flips. But if I
Right.
put it in the very center of the open
Yes.
core, it won't even
Yeah.
move
That's right, because it's a
because
0
it's
point.
absolutely null. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what my coil does. I
So
can show that.
that would explain it's creating like an orifice for the 0 point to enter through.
Now,
Because when you
there
put the two,
is one.
when they're in,
Sorry, go ahead.
when the two magnets are in attraction mode, when you bring them close, if you actually show this on a ferro cell, a dark spot forms in between the two magnets while they're in attraction. That's your 0 point. That's where you want that energy to flood into.
Absolutely. And I
yeah.
did find something. I still have a few more tests to do, but I believe I found something that blocks that very energy. But that's just like I said, I still have some more research to do, more tests. I'm not positive on that yet.
Right. We got a couple new.
I'm not hearing anybody.
Welcome,
We can hear
Ben
you.
and
We can-
Sat. We can hear you.
Yeah, Sad, your microphone is muted. Ben Factor, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah, do you guys need more space?
No, we're good. We're good.
Good.
Okay, Sad, your mic's not muted. Just do a sound check for us.
Sat. We lost Ben.
Yeah, I hear clicking, but I can't hear Sad.
We lost Ben. Okay, Sad, we got you. We got your video. Try talking.
Oh,
Yeah, we can see you, Sad. Can you talk?
yeah, nope.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, nope.
And
Bye-bye.
you're gone. Bye-bye.
That's a first.
Stream Bomber.
That's a first.
Have a nice day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, Ben, sorry about that, but Ben, okay, Ben's restarting. Ben is legitimate. Ben's from my channel. I get that gets sads from yours, Mike. Now you're getting the attacks. But,
Yeah, what the heck? I'm getting all the Lugans.
right? Oh my.
That just means you're above the target, Mike. That's all it means.
Right.
There
There
is
we
that
go.
a
Now we
thing?
got Ben.
Yeah,
Ben's
I don't
good.
know.
There we go.
Now we can hear Ben. Welcome,
Yeah,
Ben.
we can hear you, Ben.
What's going on, guys?
Good,
I
good.
don't know if you caught that, but the other guests, geez. But you were saying you were getting 124% over Unity on your coils in my chat. Sadly, Mike, Gerald, and Phil here weren't able to see your comments, Ben. So maybe do you want to just give everybody a brief explanation of what you've been working on?
Yeah, so with the setup that I have now, and I got it ready to show you guys. Unfortunately, I blew the fuse in my one new multimeter, so I won't be able to show you the current on it. But if you can take my word for it, the current is being maintained on both ends, and I've double checked, I've triple checked everything. There's really no way that you can set up the multimeters to be inaccurate at this point because channel A and channel B aren't even connected. Right? They're sitting on top of each other in a bundle, but they're not actually connected.
Yeah, they're isolated.
Right. So, I mean, there's still some part of the back of my brain saying, like, I got to be missing something or I'm not understanding something, but all the numbers seem to be checking out. The coil's doing exactly what everybody says it does. And I just can't believe that this isn't like all over the fucking news.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got if you've got something set up, we can put you on. If you want to do a show your setup, Ben, I can highlight your screen if you want.
Yeah. Let me disconnect a couple of.
So Ben, what is that? A PoE? Oh, we lost your audio.
Oh, Ben, we lost your audio. We can't hear you. Uh-oh. Well,
We lost your audio. We might have muted. Yep, that's better.
Back.
Sorry, I had to disconnect the studio mic.
Oh, nice.
Can you see that?
Yeah, so
I
that
have
is
to
a
turn my
PoE?
laptop.
Yeah, it looks like a PoE.
Yeah, it's a PoE coil based off of the design of Erica and Daniel Nunez of First Stop Energies. And it's all color coordinated so you can see the channels here. Channel A is red in, out is black. Channel B is yellow and green. And that's going to like a custom circuit that I have with a little rectifier and a DC motor. And it's also got a couple of 3 LED lights. So it's powering a load while it's doing this. It's doing actual work.
Right.
That's awesome.
And
I see you got a metal ball.
Here,
that's amazing.
yeah, at 3 kilohertz, I was getting about 3.5 volts on the input, 0.15 amps on the input, and on the output, I was getting 6.1 volts and 0.2 amps on the output. That's 113% gain.
There you go.
Right? I mean, it's tiny increments. It's but it's a proof of concept that this stuff works.
Yeah, over Unity is fact.
Right, and nature does it all the time. So to discredit that is kind of ridiculous. But I have the neodymium sphere set up. I'm going to show you the low end frequency.
Yeah, I want to see it spin. Is it going to spin or?
Yeah, it's going to spin like not. Here we go. Oh, look at that. We're at 4 hertz right now. I haven't even touched it.
Can you,
and again, I forget his name, but
down?
like you said, it could be running and running and running, and it won't get hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that?
We can't see it. Try it again. Oh yeah, see. Right. Yeah, so you got a spinning field there. Yep.
Yeah, so that's 4 hertz. And if I take out my magnetic pull detector, we can see if we can detect a pull, but I wasn't able to detect one except at very high gain.
Yeah, that's the 0 point. It's just following the field going in a circle.
Right?
If you put more voltage and more current, that ball should be spinning around and around and around.
Right. Yeah, the correct frequency and input.
Yeah.
Here's 5 hertz. It's going a little bit faster.
Yeah. Yeah, if you speed it up even faster, it should go all the way around.
Right. Yeah. See, it wants to synchronize. See, it's wanting to synchronize with the field, but I haven't achieved it quite yet.
Now, I've seen somebody do a similar experiment with that. Hold the magnetic ball in a cup about 2 feet away, and it's still spinning.
When you capture the magnetic moment, you've reached magnetic synchronicity, and you can do that. You can get it synchronized with the vortex field, and then take it outside like 15 feet, and you'll still affect it.
And it will still affect it, yeah.
Yep. And you can even power down the coil, and you can see it still affecting it for a little bit of time. Because, the coil, it kind of stores energy. That's what it seems like.
Cool.
And now let's bust out the tone generator. We got a tone generator here. I'm going to put it on 800. Oh, that's a little bit too fast. Yeah, baby.
It almost flew off the table.
Yeah. Every step of the way, this coil has surprised me.
Testing 1 2.
And we're getting 3.6 volts on the output. Let's take a look at the input.
Try slowing down the pulse rate.
2.3 volts on the input. Can you see that?
Take off the light on it.
Oh, take off the light?
Yeah, take off the light. Yeah, now we can see it.
2.350 on the input. That's voltage.
Yeah.
And you got 3.638 on the output.
Yep, there you go.
Yep. And it's powering a load. And I wanted to make sure it's, I wanted to see how it would affect the DC and the AC at the same time. So, I kind of split the circuit a little bit, but it didn't seem to affect it at all.
That's
So
awesome, man.
So
Right?
you can power
This is epic
motor
work,
and also
man.
power a light.
Yeah.
I like the duct tape.
Yeah. But I did notice that without the capacitor, it kind of stops and you have to re-jump it. So the signal's kind of jumpy.
Yeah, you have to give it some capacitance. It doesn't have enough capacitance in the coil to drive it. So yeah, a capacitor definitely will help.
It's incredible. Like this coil, and it wasn't that hard to do. It took some time, but I think almost any engineer could whip up one of these.
Yeah.
Is that the Rodin coil?
It's
Yeah.
the
I'm going to be putting.
Yeah, it's
By the
based
meter.
on Rodin's math, but
So I'm going to be putting out a comprehensive text guide this weekend, and then a
Yeah, but
demo
doesn't-
video to go along with it.
That's
isn't
awesome.
Daniel Nunes' work based on the Rodin coil?
Yes. So
Yeah, okay.
Daniel and Erica Nunes of First Stop Energies was they pretty much perfected this coil, and they were open sourcing it. But their mistake was they tried to patent it, and ever since then they kind of went off the circuit. I haven't heard from them.
Right?
I
He
haven't
deleted all their videos
been able to
and
find any
stuff.
information on them.
Yeah, like literally
Yeah, all their
all
videos were taken down off
got
of
taken
YouTube,
down.
and I know they were taken down off of YouTube.
The patent means that it's not open source. If it's got patent, it's not open source.
Well, they were.
No,
thought
they
it was-
patented a version of it, but they were showing people how to set this up.
Yep.
They were selling kits, is what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they had a version of this coil that was patented. You can go online; the patent's still pending. It's not
Yeah.
called the
Didn't
POE
somebody-
coil. I can send you the link, but
Yeah,
it's got some weird name, but it's basically the same design.
Didn't somebody take them to court, like to
Yeah,
shut
they're-
them down? Personally,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I
you know
wouldn't
what
doubt it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
doubt it.
yeah.
That's
That
what they
usually
do.
happens when you find something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they'll go after you financially. They'll tie you up
Yep.
in court, and they'll basically try to bankrupt you. Is what they're going to do.
Right.
That's
And
part
that's
of-
why I'm not interested in
that-
making money. I just want to study
Yeah,
it. Just want to
gotta
study the
open
science
source.
and maybe have people
Yeah.
replicate this.
100%.
I'm so broke,
Good
ain't
on
got two
you,
nickels
Ben.
to rub together.
Open
So let them
source.
come after me. I don't care.
So I'm gonna run this
Haven't
coil a
got a
little
pot
bit,
to
and then
piss.
we're to do it temperature test. If that's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
do
please.
that.
I'll highlight you
Yeah,
on
I want to see
screen
what's
here.
happening in the
This
middle of that
is
coil.
amazing stuff. I'm stoked. Like I've been trying
Even
to
if
find
it's a few
anything
degrees,
on
that shows
Bermuda.
up because you're only
Well,
yeah, because you're only using like 2.3 volts, right? You're not using much voltage, so you might get
yeah.
a degree or two changing. But if you got it up over 25 volts going in, you might see some more dramatic temperature changes, right?
Yeah, I'd
So
like
try
to
to step it
pump
up.
it
Don't
to a
be
couple of
don't be
volts.
afraid.
Well, the
Yeah,
thing is
don't
with
be
this
afraid.
stereo receiver, it's an old stereo receiver, so I think it's shutting off because the energy coming back in is just too much for it. Like it's multiplying the energy
It's
going
like
and then coming back in, shutting it down if I go too high on the gain.
yeah, it's feeding back. It's a feedback.
You need
It's
to
like a
use
feedback
resistors.
loop.
Yeah, you need to use resistors on your feedback, like your ground from your PoE back
Okay.
to your stereo. If you use resistors, those resistors are going to heat up, but you'll be able to sustain your output.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I could try that for the next version of the system.
Yeah. Make sure you keep those resistors cold because they could melt.
Heat.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it
What
depends how
ohms are
much
we
power
talking
he's putting
about?
through it, right? Like he's not putting too much. Like an amp's not. It's not going to melt. Well,
No,
then
no,
again,
I'm saying if he's going in higher potentials, like if he's
Right.
hitting like
Yeah.
And are we
25
looking at
volts or
the
that's
whatever.
what I mean. You never know, right? You get that surge from an output on a PoE, it could melt some shit. You never know.
Yeah.
If you're pulsing, you can control
Right.
the heat with your pulse rate.
Yeah, to a point. Yeah. It all depends on the
Low
what do you
frequency.
call it? The resistance
frequency.
in the coil. Have you tested how many ohms resistance that coil is?
So actually I haven't looked at the resistance
Looks
yet.
looking
But
at it.
it's going to
100
be
ohms.
less efficient than the Nunez design, specifically because I screwed up the bundle. When you're bundling the wire, you want it to be uniform. And unfortunately, I didn't tighten it enough when I was twisting the wires together. So there's a couple of spaces where the wires kind of like jump up a little bit and aren't packed together. So that I suspect is affecting the system in some way.
100%. Bob
when
Green
Daniel
here
Nunes-
states with like the exact same thing with his windings as Keshi and the Magrav, all of them, that you have to have that same consistency throughout in the spin to maintain the field unity of the geometrics of it.
Yeah,
Right.
that field unity is because of the skin effect. Each additional line actually multiplies the one after it. That's why you have to get it really tight.
Right. So they have to be like compacted.
Yeah.
No, that all makes sense because you're taking two counter-rotating magnetic fields and you're compressing them on top of each other in such a way that you create that singularity.
Yeah, and you have to follow it to their uniform path. Otherwise, it doesn't quite work well.
Right. And there's specifically a more advanced version of the PoE coil before they went silent. And what they did was basically they just made the openings on the coil frame very thin, V-shaped, so that you can only fit one wire at a time, but you're fitting them on top of each other so they're perfectly symmetrically in a line, right? And that they claimed that version was so advanced,
cancel out.
right, that it didn't produce any O3, which is a common
It
problem.
cancels out. You get identical signals cancel each other.
Right, exactly.
You have to have different flow rates of current as well.
And I'm also seeing that because you don't really get to know and understand these systems until you work with them. Theory can only bring you so far. But I'm starting to see that the rodent coil has multiple resonant frequencies. There's one on the lower end and one on the higher end. And on the lower end, it has a strong electromagnetic field, and on the higher end, it seems to produce tiny amounts of over unity, at least in my system.
Yeah, start playing with higher voltages.
I do have because they do recommend a HV capacitor. I'm not sure if my coil.
Yeah, high voltage.
But yeah, it's supposed to output high voltage, and it does this. The secret to their design is the method that they use is an open circuit system, where they
Open loop.
use an open loop, and
loop.
I guess it leaves room for it to resonate more in the cavity.
Yeah.
Well, the open part is when the transistor's gate is open. That's the open part of the pulse. So you have a pulse. There's an on and an off. During the off portion of this loop is the portion they're calling the open part. That's when it's off.
So is it not
portion is when the flyback occurs.
Because it is being closed by the load.
When you close the gate, you create a load. The coil is the load.
Yeah, but
when you close the gate, you're connecting the other end of the battery to the coil.
Mike, this is
you're charging it.
You're talking conventional systems, though. The PoE and systems that me and
it's a pulse. It's a pulse system, right? That you're using here.
Yeah, I'm pulsing it with AC.
So there's an on and off. During the off, the coil inverts its polarity.
Understood, but they're dynamic systems. They're not just one coil, one transistor. Do you know what I mean? They work as
they're they're bifilar. I know one direction, one back the other. I get back the other way. I get you.
So you're saying
you phrase that again, benefactor? Two fields in and how did you said the specified you described
two counter rotating magnetic fields compressed.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Two counter rotating magnetic fields. That's exactly right.
That's the pinch.
Right. And it's the secret is when you combine the resonance with the geometry. And that's, if you look at the Tesla coil, he had the resonance right on that coil to maximize the voltage, but he wasn't choosing the path of least resistance for his coils.
Absolutely.
So when you combine the two, I believe you can achieve over unity.
I think
with a third coil, maybe.
I think Tesla was using a path of least resistance, but he kept it hidden from the public.
Yeah, that's very true.
If you look at his patents, they were inverted and they were upside down. So
that's
really
right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like his Tesla coil is actually a receiver.
Wow.
You reverse it, right? If you use the secondary as a primary, you can actually step down the power, and it's very interesting. Tesla.
And when you see, because that explains why he used high voltage when it went to the second coil, because it's in harmonic resonance with the first Tesla coil. It's going to harmonically resonate at the same frequency and the same voltage. So the primary coil, which is usually what triggers the secondary, he now made that into the step-down transformer. So
absolutely, and then there's a spark gap in there for regulating the frequency.
Right. Go grab my thermometer.
Yeah.
He made the secondary was a step-down?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, when you reverse it.
That's hard to believe.
No, not at all. It's a transformer, Mike. It's
just he was stepping down. What was he stepping down? Super high.
Okay. Voltage? Yeah. So you got listen. You got the first Tesla coil. That's your transmitter. Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it now. You're stepping down super high voltage into the secondary.
Right. Okay. So my question to you is this: what happens when you step down from a high voltage to a low voltage?
You gain amps. You convert voltage to
exactly.
You don't lose anything. You convert everything. Nothing is lost.
That's right. Now you're creating horsepower. Now you're creating horsepower. Now you're creating horsepower with the second coil. It's not physically connected to the first coil. So therefore, there's no draw off the first coil. It's just doing its thing, right?
So what you're saying now is actually one of the secrets to the Wardenclyffe Tower. Now think about that, because radio frequencies are only voltage. There's no current. So
that's right.
Literally,
that all depends on the duty cycle of the radio frequency.
If you could collect the radio frequency on the secondary of a Tesla coil and step it down through the primary, just like Mike was describing, you now have a free energy system through the radio.
There you go. Well, way over unity.
Right. Gerald, by the way, radio frequencies don't have much current because their duty cycle is very narrow.
They don't need it. You just need to collect that.
Right, they don't need it. They just need the pulses for the sound wave.
Yeah, and when you send it to the ground, you literally collect it as it's flowing through to the ground.
But that doesn't mean you can't send radio signals with a wider duty cycle and transmit amps.
Yeah, true.
You don't need to. Well, yeah, you don't need to, because as soon as you're stepping it down, that's where your gains happen. You know,
True.
Yeah.
If you're collecting high frequency, high voltage radio signals and stepping it down to a low voltage,
huge
low
current.
then right.
You got
Yeah, because that spark gap is what regulates the frequency, right?
Exactly, Mike.
Yeah, the ohms
That's
is
right.
doing something real crazy. Look at that. I put it on the ohm setting.
You could have an intermittent short, or I don't know if your
Is your device on? If your device is on, shut it off. Just do it with the meter. Yeah, shut your coil off.
The only way to measure the resistance of the coil manufacturers, you have to have it disconnected from the circuit.
Yeah,
I
that's
see.
right.
Okay, there we go.
Disconnect okay, so you got what is 3.7.
At least one end has to be disconnected from the circuit. Then you can measure.
Was that?
I'm a layman still, so.
It's 3.7 ohms, right?
Yeah, 3.7.
That's low.
All learning live.
What is that? 18 gauge or 15
Yeah, so
gauge?
So
yeah, that's good.
No,
You have very.
Great. I love having this. I love having you guys here to help me and explain some of the
So-
things that I'm seeing.
So 3.7 ohms. 3.7 ohms. That means you have very little resistance in that coil. That's a good thing.
But enough to create a draw, enough to create flow.
That's cool.
Yeah,
No.
as long as you have a little bit of resistance in there, or inductance, right? You can increase the inductance by actually putting a metal core in the middle of the donut, but you don't want that. You want to create that 0 point in the middle.
Right.
So even though that your ohms resistance of the coil is low, as long as you got a bit there, it's going to draw current into the system.
Oh, so you're saying
there will be
a little bit of resistance is necessary for that energy to transfer?
Sure. Yes. To a point.
To a point.
Now you could go.
Well, let's say you got 5 ohms and 100, and what is your voltage? 12 volts, 14?
It was
No,
like
he's
3 point something on the output.
Yeah, he's using
no, what's
low
your source?
voltage.
What are you feeding?
Oh yeah, the source is a stereo amp receiver. It was reading, I think, 1.6 going in.
Volts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's using low voltage.
So Ohm's law is V over I times R. I is your current, R is your resistance, and if your resistance is 3 ohms and your volts is 1.5, 1.5 divided by 3 ohms will give you your current. Hold on.
Got a calculator?
It's 500 milliamps. That's half an amp.
So half an amp going through it.
1.5 divided by 3 ohms.
Yeah. So you got a half amp current going through that coil.
But hold on. Don't think that's watts. That's amps. So
that's amps.
Half an amp. Yeah, 0.5 times volts times amps is your watts.
Yeah.
Times 1.5.
How many? 6 volts output, you said?
Oh yeah. What's your 0.5? What's your
was
output?
1.6 on the input and 3. It was like 3.
Okay, so
3.6. That is
how many feet in that coil do you know?
1.8 watts is your output, and your input wattage is volts times amps is 1.5 times 0.5 is 0.75 watts. Less the 3/4 of a watt is your input, and you're getting 2.5 times that out.
That seems consistent with what I was reading when the actual multimeter was reading the current. Yeah.
So
and it's consistently 1 to 2 ratio on the voltage. I haven't really been able to break that except for as you tune it.
You're getting just. It's not enough to run itself, but if you
exactly, yeah.
If you had more than twice, it would run itself, and then you'd have that extra for free.
So do you know how long your coil is? Like how many feet?
So when I wound it, I stretched it out to 50 feet, and I, did the winds 24 times for 24 wires. But it didn't actually use that much. I had a lot left over, so I'm guessing maybe 30 feet, 35 feet.
Okay.
do you think you can scale it up by changing some parameters of do you think if you enlarge it or use stronger magnets or whatever, do you think you can you can have it 3 times more power or something like that?
He can increase his output if he finds a better location where the signal is more in tune with his device, like somewhere
Right.
else on the planet, where there's
And
a different resonance going on with the device.
It's
Can you walk
I
it
think
around a little bit and see
I
what
think
happens?
size has something to do with it, but I think it mostly is how many times you wind it around the coil, because different winds supposedly have different effects. You can take
Is it
like
grounded?
I'm sorry?
Is it earth grounded somehow?
No, I don't have it grounded to the earth. I'm in an apartment.
That would be the first thing I'd do.
You could even you could even ground it to your stove. The
Oh, yeah?
stove has the yeah.
So
Right to the
checking the polarity, the side that you want to ground it to. Try to find out what the polarity is of that end that you're going to give it ground, and then give it a diode that is in fashion with that polarity.
Oh, to force it through that direction.
Yeah, or vice versa, depending on what you're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that's a good.
If it works, man, if it works well, I'll be your first.
Because otherwise, whatever's going on, it's going to go back and forth. You're not going to have it going one direction, and that's not what you want. You want it to go into your battery, not back into the ground.
Right.
So I got a question.
My first setup, I had a feedback loop where it wasn't actually outputting any usable energy, but it was registering, a high voltage output.
You said you had 2 resonant frequencies, one lower, one higher. Was one of your frequencies 157.5 hertz?
157.5.
Somewhere around there.
So what happened, G? That hurts. Tell me.
So
did your foot twitch?
Anything
No,
beyond
it's because the length of his coil in comparison to his ohms.
anything between like 600 hertz to 3 kilohertz is kind of the range at where you see the over unity effect, but it's really tunes in like closer to 1 kilohertz. It's almost like 800 hertz, I think, is the highest we got, 124%.
Awesome.
Yeah,
because the faster your frequency is, the more you're sending through the device.
Right, but too fast, it just takes a dump, and you see it like it just flattens out on the output, and you get less output, which is what you're supposed to get according to conventional science.
Right. So every device has a certain amount of current it can deal with before it's not running optimally.
Now another thing you might want to try is, you have a metal core. As you're doing the experiment, put your core slowly into the center of it and see, by creating more inductance in the coil, will your gains go higher. There might be a sweet spot where you can drop that metal core down to a certain point, and it'll give you a maximum output.
We were just
enough.
Yeah, we were just thinking that the other night when we were I had some friends over running some experiments, and my friend mentioned that like we should have like a stable platform that we can measure the distance from the vortex to determine the optimal height. And that will be ideal for a rotary motor, because if you're only outputting one regardless if the North Pole actually exists somewhere, if you're only outputting one pole that's really affecting the system, that's ideal for driving a magnetic motor.
Yeah.
And something that actually happened to me that scared the shit out of me was those little disc magnets. I had a stack of them, and I had them in the cup, and I was slowly increasing the frequency 1 hertz at a time, and I noticed it was, it wasn't jumping around, it was just vibrating, and then it just started making a noise.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
you're hitting a harmonic.
Is that the harmonic for the magnet?
Well, the actual field.
For the
field itself. Yeah, the field itself. Yeah.
So what happened though, and I can't explain this, and maybe somebody knows what happened, but I took one disc off of the stack. I had the stack in my hand. I put the one disc in the cup, and it didn't do anything. So I took it out,
and I got it too close and it snapped back and it made a bright yellow flash. Like a small one, but right on the contact point where the two magnets met, it made like a small bright yellow flash. I can't explain what the fuck happened.
No. Magnets will do that. If they hit each other really hard, you will create an arc.
So it was holding a magnet, or it was holding an electric charge?
Well,
that's ferrite. It's iron.
No, if you got two like neodymium magnets and they hit each other really hard, they'll create a spark and break. They can,
they will break.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've snapped together before and not made a flash. Maybe the coil had something to do with that.
Could be. All I know is neodymiums are pretty well known for that. If they hit each other hard enough with enough force, they will create a spark.
That scared the crap out of me.
Don't put your fingers between them because
that's gonna hurt.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that being said, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with this coil, and I'm really
I just all I say is try to increase the inductance of that coil. Try with the core, putting it in slowly, and don't be afraid to go with higher voltage. Try to go higher voltage.
Yeah, when I get a more safe setup, I'll definitely do that. Right now, it's not exactly.
You can do higher voltage safely through a coil that has higher impedance, higher resistance, so a thinner gauge.
Yeah,
and then
you'll go higher. Yeah, but I don't think it wants
power supply that can supply enough power.
Yeah.
Oh no. I mean the voltage, not power. Voltage. You're not sending amps. You're just sending voltage into it.
Well, you can control the voltage with it too, but I mean it can send a lot more voltage than my stereo receiver can.
If the coil has a higher resistance, it won't allow the amps, but it will allow the voltage.
Yeah, no. So you're saying the amps will kind of stay at the same current flow?
A higher resistive coil will allow you put like let's say 100 volts through a high resistance coil. And you got like a 100 amp battery behind that 100 volts. Well, so like the coil, let's say the coil is a 500 ohm coil. 500 divided by volts divided by resistance. So 100 volts divided by 500 gives you 0.2. Which is 200 milliamps. No, is that 200 milliamps?
Yeah, 200 milliamps.
200 milliamps. So how are you going to burn something with 200 milliamps?
Yeah. The only time I would start worrying is if you go over
but the voltage got through. But with that voltage, it was only that's because of the resistance the coil had. You see, so
that makes sense though. That does make sense. And the way that I kind of confirmed that it was actually accurate is because my multimeter is brand new. It's only rated to 250 milliamps, right? So, and it was at 260.
Right.
So I know it was outputting that amount of current.
Yeah, so using a thinner gauge winding is not going to, you can step up the voltage safely, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, maybe the next frame that I wind will be a thinner wire.
The power supply doesn't need to be a high amp power supply, but it needs to have the high voltage. Like you could use a low amp rated variac and put a diode on it to get your high voltage.
Let's see a little more.
Yeah, no, my power supply I think is rated for 50 volts.
50 volts.
But
only 200
it's not going to
milliamps.
shut off if it's not going to shut off if more than that, or it's not going to shut off if 50 volts come back into it, but the receiver does.
You mean from the flyback?
Right, exactly. Yeah, the receiver is shutting down after a certain power.
Well, you can shunt the flyback. You can shunt the flyback to a battery, capture it into a battery so it doesn't hit your power supply at all.
No, that's smart. Yeah, I could do that. I could look up that.
That's the Bedini SG.
You said use resistors on the back channel.
Well, you could even put
diode.
You could put a diode, or you know what? You could get an LED light, hook up the back spike right to that, and it'll just dump into the light so it doesn't hit your power
LED
supply
also,
and blow it. Well,
Yeah,
LED might be a little
you'll see
small.
when it
You could
happens
go
with
out.
the LED.
Because that's what I
Right.
dumped my circuit
No, these
into
are
is
all
a
good
regular
ideas.
household LED. Yeah.
How
it
many
keeps your
times did you wind that one?
This
Oh, Gerald.
coil,
Yeah,
that
Gerald.
was 750 feet one way and 750 feet the other way.
Jesus,
Bifilar.
that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, I spent some time on that. 22 on the primary, 23 on the secondary, or maybe
Yeah.
reverse that. I'd have to look at my notes. It's been a while.
that's a lot of beef.
Yeah, it does some really crazy stuff. I could get, depending on my circuit, I can pull 2100 volts out of the secondary with like 24 volts input on the primary. It's insane. It's dangerous.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
I'm gonna do all those demos very shortly. My life, I don't have funding. This is all from, like, this copper here for this coil came out of the back of old tube TVs.
Hey, I
so
understand,
much
man.
work.
I'm out of an apartment right now. I'm doing these experiments.
Yeah, so it's like I do what I can when I can, right? So I work a
Right,
job, I do
right.
renovations, get up
It's
enough
real
money,
science.
buy
It's
stuff, do experiments. So
that's
so
how
it
you
takes
know it's
time.
real
Most
if
people-
it's not
most
funded
people-
by others, right? My God. So
Exactly.
much
Right.
copper.
20 gauge, right, Joe? 20 gauge.
But most people, they'll work their entire day and then come home and be tired. But us, we push it. We just constantly push it because we're trying to actually use our limited free time for this stuff, and it's very time consuming.
It is. Just in case anyone's wondering, that's the ohms on that.
Is that considered pretty good for that size
That's
of
like
coil?
that's like a 16 or
size,
18 gauge. Right?
No, it's not 18. It's got to be 20 or 22 or 23. Those are the only gauges I was working with back
Was
then.
that 2 pounds?
Maybe 2.5, give or
Okay.
take, without the Faraday cores.
Right. At that gauge, you'd get that kind of ohms.
So what do those cores do around the outside?
They pick up voltage on the outside and they light these LEDs. These LEDs that are on them are in
They're
series.
picking the
Oh, they're
flyback.
pickup coils. Okay.
Yeah. They're pickup
They're picking
coils.
the flyback, right?
So listen to this. According to some of the videos that I've been watching regarding First Stop Energy's tutorials and demos, they actually have their main
Shut up,
coil
monster.
and their smaller coil. You can put it on top and it'll transmit wirelessly the electricity. If you put it just by setting it on top of the other coil without any power going into the secondary coil. And if you spin a magnetic motor above the primary driving coil, depending on what number of winds you have on the secondary coil, you can set it on top and it will decelerate or accelerate the spinning of the magnetic motor.
Yep, absolutely. That actually,
awesome.
I have the same effect. A little different than what yours is because I
Yeah,
understand.
anyone who's messed around in the lab has seen how energy transfers itself and never loses itself. It just
Right. And the
transfers.
closer you get to that path, the more you'll see these weird things happen.
Yep. Like I can light all these LEDs and pull like 16 volts out of every full wave bridge rectifier after putting 12 volts into the primary.
Yeah,
but
with
my
just 12 volts
secondary,
in.
yeah, but my secondary will have a super fast diode with a small capacitor bank attached to it.
See, even that, with disregarding the current, even transforming the voltage like that with a 1-to-1 ratio coil is supposed to be impossible, right?
Supposed to be, but this is based on geometrical form. I don't see here.
Well, no, it's a 1-to-1 ratio of turns, but not the same gauge, and that means the resistance is different, and the flow rate of current through the two of them is also different.
Oh, so there's two different gauge wires
You
in
got to
there.
keep that in mind. The resistance
Very
difference,
key point.
difference in resistance means difference in in pressure valves, the pressure chamber difference.
Yeah,
between
but that
pressure
has
chambers.
nothing to. I agree with you, Mike, but you're talking.
The secondary.
It's so minute that.
No, it's not. It's a
can't
very important
account-
factor here.
Yeah, but it can't account for the anomalies I'm seeing.
Yeah, well, when you have two windings that are the same gauge, same resistance, symmetric, then they cancel. Even if you wind them the opposite direction, they cancel.
Yeah, but
because
I believe you're correct when it comes to solenoid coils.
no, they don't
but I
cancel.
don't
They simulate a cancellation. But what you're seeing is just one signal, not two, because it's two identical signals. But you're only going to see one.
It's actually the
Because
same signal that's inversed.
If you can invert it, right? But will you see it with your meter? No, because your meter is not designed to read that.
But I do see it though, Mike. That's what I mean. There's a way of seeing it. I've been playing with this for 12 years, dude. I know about this
There's a way of
stuff
seeing it.
in my sleep. I'm telling you. I just haven't released everything that I know because it's
But
very
having
difficult.
two different flow rates.
There's a lot of naysayers.
Yeah,
out
you
there.
talk about this shit with everyday people, and they think you're crazy. Half.
Yeah, and if there's an electrician or
They
an
don't
electrician
understand
in
pressure and
the room,
voltage.
forget it, because he's got this thing stuck up his ass about the
Right.
3 law of thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics,
drop.
yeah. You can't break the
The
law of
second
thermodynamics.
law of
It's different.
thermodynamics does
Well,
not
until we unite
apply.
the gravity with the other fundamental forces of nature, I think we're missing a key concept here.
Well, but see, but that's the thing when you're talking about.
Well, you're
Einstein,
creating eddy currents with two flow rates. I mean, that's the important thing to understand here. Those eddy currents are what is going to give you the excess.
Oh,
So
it's
you have to make
what
them.
is an eddy current? Could
So
you
much more.
Well, an eddy current is when you have two different flow rates at
It's so
different
much,
pressures.
Mike.
That creates eddy
Skin
current.
effect comes into effect. The dichotron instability comes into effect. There's
Skin
so
effect
many
is the eddy
different
current.
things.
It's the same term. It's the same thing. Skin effect and eddy
So it's like a
currents is-
pressure
It's
differential.
not actually.
The eddy currents are happening on the skin of the wire. That's what happens.
Yes. Not in
Oh,
the
okay.
wire.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Not
That's
quite.
very
I understand
impressive.
where your head's at.
I like that
Well, it's
setup. I
like
want to try to
Mike,
do some pickup.
It's not the
Mike,
skin. It's the skin of two wires that are wrapped around each other, and
Mike.
the flow is
Yeah.
in two different directions, and they're in
You're
two
great.
different
You're my
pressures.
friend, but I got to ask you something. Are you an electrician?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I need. No, brother.
Breaker, the other one's a 50 amp breaker. It's kind of look at it like that. You can allow two different
Nothing
flows.
like that. Nothing like that at all. What you're talking about are linear forms of copper. This is non-linear. This creates spin.
Yeah.
It's a totally different dynamic. Totally.
So
Well, that's what eddy. That's what eddy.
I made
current
this
is.
one,
It's
and it
spin.
doesn't. Just to compare it, it doesn't produce the same effects, obviously, but it's like my control.
Oh yeah, yeah, I get that. Here, I'll get.
Yeah,
off
so it's
the-
just a regular coil. It doesn't really do anything compared to these coils.
Right. You're inducing a high rate of eddy current formation. Through that method.
But I will say that color coordinating the coil leads did help me out quite a bit when trying to hook it up, because it can get kind of confusing.
Opposite
Yeah, the POE.
rotating magnetic fields, opposing.
The POE is difficult to wire.
It is.
I made one once. Yeah.
It's a little bit of a process, but I mean, I think I've learned a couple of tricks that I can, teach everybody, and hopefully you all can make one, and we can all have these
Absolutely.
results
I've
or
been wanting
verify
to
or
for a
refute them.
while.
That's what I'm looking for.
And it's a 3-phase,
You
correct?
said what?
It's 3-phase, the PoE?
It's a bifilar, two
Or
wires.
3
Yeah,
wires?
it's 2 channels.
Not
three.
only 2? Okay.
No, so it's 2 channels. So it's got 20. It's got a bundle of.
No,
20
it's a single.
wires.
It's two wires in series, so it's like a 2-phase, but they're wrapped around each other, so it's like 1 phase with 2
What's the
directions.
PoE for?
Yeah, it's really weird. So it's a bundle of 24 wires, and then you're taking 12 of those wires and putting them in series for channel A, and then the other 12 in series for channel B.
The best way to describe it is you're
Okay.
sending current from left to right clockwise, and then right to left counterclockwise. through the same wires, two wires that are in series, and they're different in resistance. They're not symmetrical, or at least that's how I understand it.
I mean, it's really hard to get them symmetrical if that's what you're looking for. But there are
you trying to
theories
get it symmetrical?
No, there are theories that depending on how symmetrical the outputs are, the leads themselves, like having them different lengths could have different effect. So on the next coil, I do want to make the output leads the same length. You know, just to see
Well,
if
just changing, just having them the same length and having different gauges does not make them symmetrical. It makes them asymmetrical. They're not the same size or the same shape.
No, the same length.
Well, that doesn't make them symmetrical because they're not the same mass and they're not the same resistance and all of that.
Well, it might have some effect. At the very least, it'll keep.
Oh, I mean, having symmetry is a way of canceling out your signal. Even you can put it 180 degrees out of phase. It's just like a way of taking noise and silencing it. Like
well, it makes sense that what you're saying, because now that I think about it, what you're doing is you're putting the wires in series and creating a big bump right there.
It's an inversion circuit.
And that doesn't really seem to affect the efficiency of all of the system.
Symmetry is a way of inverting. You know, you can create symmetry, but inverted symmetry, and then you cancel out a signal and all that. Or you're not really.
No, it's probably more about it's probably more about the uniformity of the bundle itself. Then.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the bifilar is two windings, but they're not the same thickness. They're two different gauges, right?
No, but you want that system to be asymmetrical. You don't want it symmetrical.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You want it to be asymmetrical for having the harmonic resonance take effect. Yeah.
No, maybe mine is asymmetrical. It is kind of bent.
What I'm saying is like you're sending a current with a certain amount of milliamps, which creates the note A, for instance, the musical note A, and then you double that. You give that milliamps, you multiply it by an octave, and you have the same A but at a higher pitch. Let's say you don't do that, and you just create a C, which is a resonance to the A. So the C is, let's say, that's 600 milliamps. So you got 200 milliamps going through the bifilar on the first winding, going from left to right, and you got 600 milliamps coming back the other way, going from right to left. That's a pressure differential. That's where I think this over unity is taking in that kind of a system. You know,
that could be. I mean, if you look at asymmetrical systems, though, they seem to be prominent in physics.
Yeah,
so they create a harmony or a melody.
Right.
It's all.
That's the only way you get over unity is an asymmetrical system. A symmetrical system will cancel itself out.
Right, symmetrical is like having a lower A and a higher A. That's symmetry.
That makes sense. So what you're saying is my system is probably asymmetrical in some way.
Even Tom Bearden.
Right.
Tom Bearden talked about this.
It has to be.
Has to be asymmetrical.
If you look at the Thein-Heinz device,
this gives a lot of new data to my research that I need to rethink things.
A lot of key points.
I was thinking it's all about the symmetry, but maybe it's the lack of symmetry.
Like even Bearden said too, is non-equilibrium. Is basically what he's saying. As long as your system is non-equilibrium, you'll get the over unity effect. As soon as you get
you have to break the symmetry.
Yeah.
That's what he says. You have to break the symmetry. Those are his words. Right. Break the symmetry. That's his.
Yeah, but he's talking about breaking the symmetry of the circuit, not the coil. The coil is a separate animal.
The coil is a part of the circuit.
So you're saying even if it's the same gauge size and length and all that, it could have different resistance.
Break the symmetry, but having not two notes of C, but a C and a D, which resonate with each other, which they're in harmony.
Right.
They're not symmetrical. They're two notes, but they're in harmony.
What I originally thought. I'm glad I came
breaking
on
the
here.
Symmetry doesn't mean
stoked to have you on, Ben.
Breaking the harmony.
A lot of good key points.
Oh, real quick, I forgot to tell you guys. The temperature only registered a degree higher. All that time we had it running. It was the ambient was 75, and it was running in the vortex on the coil wire at 76.
It's only a couple watts, so
No, what
you
you're
got to
looking
reach over 1,000 watts to get hot. You know,
well,
500 watts.
well, if you're getting the real effect of 0 point, it should be cooling down.
Right once it starts taking in the radiant energy.
That's right. If it's taking in the radiant energy, your core should start. Or
That's what we
coil
should see. We should. That's what Daniel Nunes described in his center of his coil is a 10 degree reduction. So I might have inefficiencies in my coil in some way, but for some reason I'm still seeing an increased output. And I'd like everybody to try to replicate this to see if they can get the same thing.
Yeah, I think you're just running at too low.
Too low.
Too low voltage.
When your coil starts to cool down, you have to give it the opposite reaction on the other side of the circuit, like sort of like breaking symmetry. So
you don't have to rewind
this. I have to show this crew this, but I did an experiment where I run my coil system. I believe it was at 880 hertz. I have a small capacitor bank on the back end of my transistor circuit. I'm running it in a negative bias. Then I run that through a 900 watt electric element and I heat it to about half of its heat. But when I'm doing that, my coil cools down. And I mean like almost to the touch where you touch it.
It gets colder, like noticeably colder.
Yeah, it feels like it's burning your finger.
That's cold electricity, baby.
Right? So
what do you mean when you say you're running a negative bias? You're switching to negative?
You have to have a resistance somewhere in the circuit that sucks the heat while you're like as a load when you're running it. So
okay, that makes sense.
Something to think about.
Gerald, what do you mean when you say you're running in a negative bias? Does that mean you're switching the negative side on? What does that mean?
Okay, so the coil circuit that I got from Bedini, I
mean, like if you're running in a positive bias, what does that mean?
Yeah. So I run the negative. I go from the negative of the wall plug to my primary, and then from the negative part of my primary through my 2N0355. Does that make sense?
Oh,
so
okay. You're the transistor.
I'm trying to follow.
You're using a PNP, not an NPN.
Yep, I'm using a PNP. Yep.
Which is like switching the negative.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about how you play with the polarities, right?
You're using the negative potential to create your switches.
Exactly. And by doing so, I'm getting a mass amount of positive potential. See all those little things, they add up. You can't do it with just a free energy circuit or a free energy coil.
For the people listening that don't get that, let me just explain. The positive potential is like taking a plus 5 volts from the battery and touching the base of a transistor to get it to close the gate. You're giving it a 5 volt positive potential. What he's doing is he's using not an NPN, he's using a PNP transistor, which can read, it senses negative voltage on the emitter, if I'm not mistaken, Gerald. Is that correct? And the positive is still hitting the base. The positive of that negative that you're giving the emitter is still connected to the base of that same PNP.
Absolutely.
But it's getting triggered from the emitter side, not the base.
Yep.
Of the same transistor, the two types of transistors. That's interesting. Yeah. That's
because if you put a load on the positive side of that 2N355 and you run your coil on the negative side, your potential goes through the roof on your coil end.
I'm vaguely getting what you're describing right there.
And your system runs way more efficient.
It's like running a light bulb on the negative leg or something.
Exactly. But when I run it on the negative rail, I flip the polarity through my coil, turning it into a positive.
So what Gerald's describing here is he's pulling positive energy towards his negative potential device. by creating it, giving it a negative potential through the ground, right? You said you had it connected to the ground.
Yeah, my secondary is connected to the ground.
And that's your negative potential. That's how you make the device having a lesser potential to the positive from your source.
And then all my pickup coils just scream with that positive potential that's flipped.
So instead of pushing the source energy into his device, he's pulling the source energy into his device from the opposite end of the circuit, not the source end of the circuit, from the other end of the circuit, which is the drain end of the circuit, right? The drain end?
Because think about this. Think about this. When electricity is flowing, when you flip on a light switch and you turn on that light bulb in your room, and you flip it off, that power goes back through the wall to source.
The opposite direction. Goes to the opposite.
Exactly. Faster than it did when you turn the light on. Because it
has
has
more than 10x multiple in voltage.
What's that?
And also at a more than 10x multiple in voltage.
Exactly. See?
But at the same time, a 10x decrease in amps.
See? You're getting it, Mike. That's exactly what I've been doing for the last 12 years.
You switch voltage for amps every time you convert. You don't lose anything unless the circuit that is being converted through has they're not in tune with the volts that you're putting through and all that in the amps. They have to be like the coil has to be rated for over. Let's say you got 5 amps pushing through a coil, and your coil can only handle 4 amps. That's not going to work out. You know, your coil has to at least handle more than 5 amps. And having a coil that only handles the 5 amps, which is what your source is putting in, and only handling the maximum is still not going to be good enough. You want a coil to handle 10 amps for a 5 amp source. And then you're not going to have any heat or any losses.
Well, when I was at my max, and I had to shut it down because it freaked me out a little bit. There were some anomalies I won't talk about right now. But when I was at my max, I was pulling 1800 watts through that coil. That coil at 20 gauge and 22 gauge, or 22 and 23. Like I said, I got to check my notes.
That's a pretty thin gauge wire to be doing that.
I know, because you know why? The coil does not heat up.
That's 18 amps.
And you know, I had a theory when you were saying amps. Powering it off has a spike in voltage. I had a theory that that's maybe what John Searle's doing with his Searle effect generator, is pulsing it on and off.
Yeah, collecting the back spike.
The rollers are doing that.
Yeah.
So there you go. You guys got 2 secret sauce secrets tonight.
Right? Huge secret sauces.
This has been a great episode.
100%.
Absolutely.
One of the best.
Yeah, we got.
By the way,
we got about 5 minutes, and then we'll square it up, right?
Sounds good.
By the way, if you want to boost up your voltage, with the same power supply and give it the full 50 volts, just put like a 10 watt, 10,000 ohm resistor on the positive side of your power supply, coming out to your coil, and you can turn off the voltage without sending any more amps.
Oh, yeah. So the positive end of the output channel.
Right. Or the negative, but I don't know which will work better. It's kind of.
I can do that right now. I mean, I know we don't have time, but I'll do it for the next show.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
You can try either the positive or the negative, or both even. You can put a resistor on both the positive and the negative.
This is real science.
Just everything about this coil just blows my mind.
I think
make sure those resistors can handle at least 5 or more than what your power supply puts out in watts.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, Mike. Totally. Because they will
just get hot and burn up.
I've gone through a few of them already.
Yeah.
The high wattage ones, they cost like $1 more, but they'll never burn out on you, and they'll keep using them.
Yeah, the ones that come with my Arduino kit aren't probably gonna cut it.
The white ceramic ones that come out of the back of old tube TVs, they're like 10, 15 watts. Those are the best. If they heat up.
Yeah, those are the best ones. Yeah.
Well, I got a HV capacitor that's 2,000 volt rated. Maybe one of you guys can show me how to hook it up to the system one day.
Maybe next week.
Well,
right?
where are you located?
Same time? Ben, where are you?
Where are you located?
You said what?
Where are you located?
Oh, I'm in Michigan.
No, here.
You're in Michigan. Okay.
Yeah.
You're close to me. You're my
We're
neighbor.
right across the border. So.
Yeah, I'm just right outside of Hamilton.
Oh,
in between
nice.
Toronto and
Yeah, I'm far away. I'm in the center of Canada. I'm a Tobin, a Manitoba.
Hey,
Yeah, but
I'm even
he's a-
further next to the Rockies.
You're close to the Oilers, man.
Yeah, that's true. that yeah. Bernie's close to the
prairie
Oilers,
man.
that's for sure.
Yeah, you're the latest, the latest heartbeat of Canada for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
Are
right.
they gonna win it this year?
Yeah, I hope so.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully the Oilers pull it off. But Calgarian, do I have faith?
Yeah,
in
just
them?
like in the Wayne Gretzky days.
Join the bandwagon.
You know what? I wasn't much into Edmonton Oilers, except for, in those old days with what was his name again there, Phil?
Gretzky.
What, Gretzky?
Gretzky, yeah, Wayne Gretzky. He had some pretty cool moves, man. I used to watch him play, just awesome.
Him, Paul Coffey.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah, those were the good days. Anyways, guys, I
Coffey.
think we'll square it up tonight. We had a great show. We'll be back again live next Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. Don't forget to check up on Philip's work. You can go to Faraday Research, also BurnEye's at Crypto Alchemist. And Gerald, hopefully maybe next week you can actually do a demo for us.
WPG.
You know what? I will do a demo, okay? I will absolutely do a demo.
I'll be here. That'd be
Right,
exciting.
Ben Factor. I'm looking forward to more of your work and having you back and seeing you next week.
Ben.
Yeah,
Oh.
this should be fun.
I got a Patreon link. I just added on the private chat. So if you can share it on the public chat, that would be great. Thanks.
Awesome.
I think I've seen your channel, Ben Factor.
And that's my channel if anybody's interested in keeping up to date with my research.
On that note,
Cool.
Thank you all for watching. It's awesome.
All right, Ben,
Excellent.
thanks a lot.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just Bernie.
Next week.
Hey, Bernie, just like last week, huh?
Nice meeting
See you guys.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Weekend at Bernie's.